Elets Innovation Talk, a series where we speak to industry players and thought leaders about their revolutionary business ideas and innovations that are transforming the healthcare technology innovations in healthcare since 2005. Joining us today, we have Mr. Benjamin James, HR leader Asia Pacific at Cytiva, who has a rich experience in the HR domain. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So, sir, to begin with, if you could tell us a bit about Cytiva and, of course, the present landscape of the biopharma sector.
Oh, sure. Cytiva is a 2+-year-old brand, and we are on an everyday mission of solving the toughest healthcare problems for the patients, customers, and for the world. And thanks for starting with this question, because this question is a very contextual and foundational one for the conversation that we are going to have on this space. So the landscape of biopharma sector, Garima, is changing tremendously. And the last 2 years, all of us have witnessed pandemic, and it has become evident that biomolecules save the world, right? So from that context, there are 3 spheres in which I just see the landscape change. Number one, government and regulation. There is a lot of focus today on biopharma, and the budget tells us the story. There is a 20% increase of budget allocation for healthcare research. And in that, 22% of allocation is going for biosecurity preparedness. That tells us that the bio industry is coming to the center of the government agenda. Very good news. The second landscape change is about making in India to developing in India. What do I mean by that is, today accessibility and affordability can't be just at metros of India. We have to take it to rural parts. So if we just stop with making in India, that doesn't suffice. We need to develop in India. So the second landscape change is collaboration with various industries to make bio accessible and affordable to everybody. The third and the most important landscape change is technology. If you look at a few years back, to get one therapeutic to the market, it took several years, and we can't wait such a long time in a pandemic era. So technology has to come to the forefront to accelerate accessibility of solutions to patients and customers and governments, in the coming days. So these are 3 landscape changes: government, developing in India accessibility, and the technology transformation. And we are glad in Cytiva, we are in the forefront of enabling all these changes, Garima.
Wonderful to hear, the vast expanse that, you have in this very short period of time, and the futuristic vision that you hold to address very key challenges that the segment is facing. Now, in terms of the talent crunch in the biopharma sector in the country, what is the current scenario and how do you plan to deal with it? What are the solutions that you have to offer?
Yeah, whether we like it or not, talent crunch is real. Especially coming from Cytiva, I very eloquently say that because last year we did a study called Resilience Index. This was a study about talking to various customers, stakeholders on 5 pillars of biopharma. One of them included talent pillar. There were others like R&D, manufacturing, supply chain, all of those. And one of the pillar is talent. That very clearly told us across the globe, not necessarily in India, the talent pool is the weakest of the lot. In sourcing talent, skilling talent, making them available, all of those, we are going through a little bit of crunch on this. So talent crunch is real. But the problem is, if you're going to look at talent crunch just as a very broad, platform, it doesn't really give you clues as to how do we really solve it, right? So I'm taking an approach of dissecting this into 3. Number one, there are talent who are designing solutions, who are the engineers, digital researchers, that group of talent.
Right.
Number 2, there are people who are making the solutions, the manufacturing talent. And number three, there are people who are selling and servicing the solution. So let's look at talent in three groups, and let's look at the crunch from a three group standpoint. Let's come to the first one, the designing talent. What's the issue that we have here is supply. Because when you go to the market, you just don't compete with bio industry. You compete with some big tech giants here. And there is huge supply demand issue that we deal with every other day. So that is the talent crunch that we are talking about, the designers. Let's come to the manufacturing ones, the makers of the solutions, right? If you look at India, India has manufacturing of bio industry in a concentrated pocket, either
Right.
in west or in south. But you have talent across. To give them exposure to the goods manufacturing process is very key. But unfortunately, we are not able to do that as much as we want to. So there is a crunch of exposure to manufacturing process. That's the second that we are talking about. The third talent crunch that we are talking about here is in terms of the selling and servicing talent. There, if you look at, these are long tenured associates or talent with the company. When we go to competition and hire, it's all coming from the same talent pool. After some years, we will all saturate. We are all fishing from the same pond, right?
Right.
It
Absolutely.
is something like that. It will saturate and there is no diversity. So that's the third threat or talent crunch that I kind of see. So we have got supply demand to fill, we have got manufacturing exposure to address, and third, saturation and diversity to address. These are what we are, aiming to address. India
Right.
especially needs this attention because we scored only 6.15 out of 10 in the Resilient Index in the talent pool, which is the weakest in the Asia region, Garima. So this is a real issue. Thanks for asking this question.
Very pertinent thoughts you've shared. So, looking at this, the bigger picture, so, how is Cytiva ensuring that, the right talent is acquired, and that matches the international standards?
Yeah.
So, what is it that you're doing there?
Thanks. You're actually segueing us into, how are we acquiring them, right?
Yes.
Uh, Luckily for Cytiva and proudly for Cytiva, we in India are a microcosm of the global Cytiva. What do I mean by that is all that you have in globe, you have a part of it in India. Think of R&D. We have a big R&D setup, research and development setup. Think of digital. We have a good pool of digital talent here. Think of commercial. We have got a good sales and services associates. And to enable all of them, we have got amazing marketing, global finance, operations, and functions. So you almost see Cytiva, a mini Cytiva in India. In what way it helps attract the right talent is you're able to tell the full story. You're not just telling the sales story. You're not just telling the R&D story. You are able to give them the big picture of why bio matters from all spheres of functions, right? From thinking to making to selling, how it matters. It's all coming together, right? So that's the big deal for us in Cytiva to go to the talent and tell what's the big picture. But that's not enough. That's not enough because what do you have a microcosm, wonderful. What have you done with it, right? That's the natural question talent will ask. I have a couple of examples to share from an R&D standpoint. Our R&D center is in existence from 2008. You've got 100 plus patents that have come from R&D center. That tells you the story of new thinking and innovation that goes in that business and how much you can tell that to a potential talent. You've got two products which has won several awards, ActaStart and there is Accelerx perfusion automated system. Both simplify manufacturing of bioprocess. So when you go to talent, you can tell them, hey, come here. We are not only a microcosm, we are also giving you content that the world can see and get benefited out of. Who will not join such a company, right? So that's the
Right.
kind of story we are able to tell. And thirdly, very while Cytiva is a very recent name, but the last 2 years we were both humbled and we are proud that we won the brand of bio industry award 2 years in a row by one of the media house of India, one big media house of India, that gives you a shining light on the brand, to the market, to the potential candidate. Okay, this is company that is actually making an impact for the others and gets recognized. So all of these put together, we are able to really attract the right talent at a world class level. So that's the story that we are proud of, and it's still improving day by day, Garima.
Wonderful, wonderful to hear that, And so, though it's been a short time frame that you've been here, but it's been the time, where technology has actually taken over. It has actually, driving every segment that we have in India and across the globe. So what is the usage, how is Cytiva using, say, artificial intelligence or mechanical learning to train the workforce, or, and to make them, industry ready? So what is it that you're doing in
Yeah.
this regard?
Very good question. I think every company should ask this question because we are moving in that direction of, from classroom to virtual every other day, right? Or from in person to virtual. So we are on an evolution journey here, Garima. When we think of training, especially in a bio sector, there are a lot of barriers to make it available. Number one is making the machine available to every user, because there are few machines and many talent who are in queue to get that training. Second, time zone. You have time zone flexibilities. Third, cost. So looking at all of those, we thought we will turn to virtual reality using artificial intelligence. So we have a VR module on training. So you can sit wherever you are and you can still have access to the machines, learn from it, try to simulate it and understand it better without even stopping the production. That's the beauty of it, right? You don't need to stop the production to run training program. So that's something that we are able to achieve. That's not exclusive to India, but at the same time, India benefits from that. So that's one thing that we are using through artificial intelligence, virtual reality. Two questions people generally ask when I say this answer. One is, isn't there a fatigue about all the Zoom, Teams, virtual reality and stuff?
Yes.
So we were able to give a very bite-sized, democratized kind of a module so that you can pick and choose whenever you want. So there is a liberty and flexibility. Second,
Right.
people ask me about cost. Virtual reality, wouldn't it cost a bomb to you? But actually speaking, it gives you a lot more flexibility and accessibility. So the cost, it might seem high as you begin, but it's not the case when you do the math when compared to your older ways of doing training. So I'm a high proponent of such solutions which is needed. So that works well. A second example, Karima, is related to HR. We have piloted in India something called N-Boarder, which is an bot-like onboarding system. So when you're joining the company, you don't know about much about the company, but how do we still engage them? So we have got a system called Onboarder, which works like bot, which keeps sending you notification about, hey, do you know about Cytiva? Do you know what's happening today? Do you know what's coming next? And it gives you a very interactive tool platform. It also allows you to interact with your manager, with your future colleagues. So this is something that we are proud of, that we are able to onboard people, new joiners, using a very automated tool. So these are a couple of examples I have, Garima, on what we are doing. Uh, it's a long
Very,
journey. Yeah.
yes, yes, absolutely. Very futuristic thought. You've adapted yourself to, to the changing times. So, my final question to, looking ahead, what do you see? What is the roadmap? And, how do you see yourself and the organization, shaping the change in the coming times?
Very promising space we are all in the entire bio industry, right? It's not necessarily exclusive to Cytiva, but since Cytiva is a front runner, especially in India for the last 30 years, we are running towards embracing this change. Uh, Cytiva is going to look at pockets where we have not reached yet. So that's something it's on the cards in terms of coverage, expansion, working with more customers, patients. That's going to be a constant outlook. and especially on the landscape changes that I spoke about. We are going to look at how are we going to touch the young minds who are not thinking of bio as a career path, but we can show them more that bio could be a career path. I'm talking about the STEM professionals.
Right.
Can we go to them before college and introduce them about how bio is a futuristic, future-proof industry, so that they consciously think about that as a career path? We are planning to do that. Second, we have got a fast track center which trains at least 200 professionals every year, introducing them to skill developments, knowledge development. So this is another thing that we do, and we continue to do more of it. Third, our R&D center. I spoke briefly about it in the previous question. So we are going to think of a new innovative patents and solutions which connects to the global. So that is something that you will see more coming from a Cytiva standpoint. And finally, make it a company that is an employer of choice. Relatable company from a culture
Right.
standpoint, from colleague standpoint, because that matters a lot, the softer aspects. So we are very conscious of building that fabric. We call ourselves as a we company. So you, I doesn't matter. It's us. It's we. So we work with that philosophy and principle. So these are all things that we are embarking as a journey, Garima, towards future. Uh, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, Mr. James. I think the country needs leaders like you and organizations like Cytiva, to take it on a path towards glory. So thank you so much for, being with us today. It was a pleasure and, very insightful listening to your thoughts. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Garima. Thanks for having me. And let's work together, for
Absolutely.
future also.
Sure, sure.